Our next speakers that I really and truly do refer to as our real deal advocates. But I want to remind everybody before you leave here, you need to make this rotunda ring with the echo of your voices. Let the governor and the administration, legislative representatives know that you're here. The government can and will help through many programs and funding, but we've got to let them know we're here, what works, what doesn't work, and particularly at this time and age right now, we need to let them know how important it is not to cut any vital human service programs. It's essential for us to stay vigilant and exercise due diligence. If you'll bear with me for just a minute, I'd like to reminisce just a little bit with my personal history, just to touch on a couple of things that help remind me how far we've come with the ADA and how important it is. In my college years at the University of Louisville, this was before the time there were any ramps whatsoever, no elevators except for one or two service elevators on the entire campus, no access, no expectation of success, and little help by the university. Case in point, one semester I had a history class that I was just absolutely dead to take that was on the 4th floor, no elevators, and the professor refused to rearrange his class in the 1st floor. All right, well, as luck would have it, I worked out an arrangement with 4 football players to get me up the steps because they had a class on the same floor at the same time. Well, you know, football players are sort of competitive by nature, so day by day they would try to beat their record of the time before. Well, that was exciting enough, but you can imagine what the race was like coming down. So, that's something that will always stick with me. And in law school, this was just after the lovely wife Marina and I were married, we attended again on the University of Louisville campus. No ramps, no elevators, no accessibility concepts, and it was really up to the students to manage any kind of assistance that was necessary. The employment picture, pretty much the same. By the time I dumped out of school, there were still no curb cuts, essentially. In the court systems, there were no ramps, many steps, and you know, you would be representing someone from the criminal element and having to rely on policemen to carry you up to the court. You never were too sure whether or not you were going to make it back. But at any rate, hiring in law firms, at least my particular experience was that there was just general fear of hiring a person with a severe disability. It just didn't happen. So eventually I had to open my own private solo practice. But after 10 years of more exposure to many of the real deal advocates and the things that were going on, at least in our hometown of Louisville, people like Alan Farmer ran for district judge and won as a quadriplegic. By the way, the first step that New York Law School made toward accessibility was when Alan Farmer suffered an accident, broke his neck, became quadriplegic today, but he's a legendary advocate. Many of you know of him or about him or know him personally. He started life in eastern Kentucky with a wheelbarrow as his primary mode of transportation. He migrated to Louisville later in life. He became one of the primary advocate movers and shakers who brought about accessible transportation in the metro Louisville area. I remember would block buses with his wheelchair in advocacy protests, actually chained himself to the door of the Transit Authority building when the mayor was inside, and he was fearless. And then, of course, John and Pam Glisson, you know that they've been involved with all sorts of legislation. I remember working with him on a piece of legislation that they got through that opened up the doors for all the policy-making boards and commissions in Kentucky, making it available to persons with disabilities. There's much change for the better with the ADA, but more is yet to be done with schools, from early intervention through K-12, post-secondary, employment, supported employment, community-based living, PCA, personal care attendant funding, and many, many more things. Once again, this all requires our personal vigilance and due diligence every day to keep an eye on what's going on and to make your voices heard, to learn how to make your connections with the legislators and the policymakers, to let them know what your needs are and how best to address those. As you may also remember, a very short time ago, in 1999, the Supreme Court started making decisions that narrowed the definition of disability and limited the application of our precious ADA civil rights. As a result of this, and mostly as a result of the vigilance and due diligence again of advocacy groups across the country, it resulted in the passage of the ADA Amendment Act of 2008. I like to call it the ADA AAA. But this was an act that undid the actions of the Supreme Court and reestablished the original intent of Congress with regard to the broad application of the ADA. Anyway, you know, attitudes are the real disability. And we not only have to make sure that we have the right attitude as advocates and as persons with disabilities or family members, but that we express those attitudes to others and help them change their attitudes toward disabilities. And it's mostly just a matter of building awareness of what we can do and how there's so little difference between us and someone without a disability. I want to, again, thank Pam and John for letting me have a moment to speak to you, and I'm looking forward to hearing from our real deal advocates. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Chase, for those words of encouragement and reflection. Next, we have on the agenda is voting access, and